How's it going, guys? Welcome to Speedy Reviews Part 2, a series where I take a bunch of films and give you my short, sharp and sweet reviews. In this instance, these are films that I saw whilst I was taking a break off YouTube and I didn't get a chance to actually make reviews for. I'll include a link. You can watch Part 1 where I review films like The Invisible Man, Just Mercy, Onward and Colour Out of Space. But let's continue with the movies that I saw whilst I was away, and kicking off Part 2 is Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
L'homme intéressé par ma fille est milanais. Nous partons là-bas si le portrait lui plaît. Il a épuisé déjà un peintre avant vous.
Que s'est-il passé? Je ne sais pas.
Oh my god. I had heard amazing things, and I do mean amazing things, about Celine Sciamma's Cannes Film Festival hit. And I have to say that every 5-star review that you see out there for this film is more than earned. Calling a movie a work of art could just not be more applicable in this sense. Every single frame in this film could be frozen and hung in an art gallery, and people who are just oblivious to where it's from would not know the difference, and the story adds to the visual splendour. It tells the story of two women on an isolated island. One is due to be married and the other is hired to paint her portrait without her knowing. And as the film progresses, they do begin to form this close and intimate relationship. Sciamma directs this with such a tender heart and grace and poise and this beautiful attention to detail. In terms of her direction, I think it's as close to perfection as you could get. This movie is near enough flawless. I believe she was sorely overlooked at the Academy Awards. Should have been nominated for Best Director. I think this should have got Best Screenplay. I know Parasite was the big headline story and it was more than deserved, but the fact that it didn't even get a Best International Film nomination is sorely disappointing. This is really worth your time. So what if it's in French? You can read. It's magnificent. Utterly and fantastically magnificent. I'm going to give Portrait of a Lady on Fire a 9.5 out of 10. Take Alien and then take Gravity. Submerge them underwater. This is what this film wishes it could have been. Instead, what we get is just an empty shell of a movie. Visually, the practical sets and the costumes look really, really cool, but as soon as our characters step out into the ocean, the entire action becomes incomprehensible. You do not have a clue what is going on. Are these characters scientists or engineers? I ask that question because I genuinely know nothing about these characters. I know that Kristen Stewart was in the movie, I know that Vincent Cassel was in the movie, I know that TJ Miller was in the movie. I could not tell you a single thing about their characters, their name, their position. It is so void of any life, of any character. You become this passive viewer watching it. You aren't watching it to root for anyone in particular. You are just waiting for the movie to end so you can leave. So I'm going to give Underwater a 2.5 out of 10.
Jude, I'm home. Jude. Gotcha.
It's fun to be scared sometimes, huh?
The sequel that nobody asked for, and yet somehow we got. Now, truth be told, I don't really remember The Boy as clearly, so before going into The Boy 2, I sat down and watched the first one, and it was a horrible decision. I don't know why I did it. That movie is horrendous. It's a bore, it's atrociously written, and there I was thinking that the sequel might be able to fix itself. It doesn't. It's almost as bad. Not quite as bad, but it's close. I will say that the story isn't as painfully dull as the first. That's kind of where my positives stop. A new family moves into the mansion where Brahms used to live, and now Brahms can torment this new child and get him to go against their parents. It's a mess. It's a ridiculous story. Seriously bland direction. The director does nothing to to just liven up the film. Everything is so tedious and dull. And also they just decide to move past the whole, oh, it was a man in the walls all along reveal from the first movie, and they've just gone, f it, the doll's alive. Brahms the Boy 2 gets a 3 out of 10.
Improved, enhanced. With the technology in your veins, you have an army inside you that will not only make you stronger, it will heal you instantly. Holy shit.
When I saw the trailer for this for the first time, I thought the film could be one of two things. Either this is going to be so ridiculous and over the top that it somewhat becomes enjoyable, or it's going to be a complete and utter car crash. And bizarrely, within the first 20 minutes, I kind of got into it. Don't get me wrong, it was sloppy, but it had this cool aesthetic and kind of a badass quality to it. Then we hit a bump in the road towards the middle, that then turned into a flat tyre, that then caused the film to lose complete steering and drive off a cliff. The plot here was totally fumbled, and it felt as if the film was just making it up as it went along. Not to mention, there is an entire action sequence that is supposed to take place, I think, in London, and I'm no geographical expert, but that ain't London. That's not even close to London. Vin Diesel's fine, but he's just playing a character that we've seen time and time again. It's nothing special, it's pretty messy. You can do better than this. So I'm going to give Bloodshot 4.5 out of 10.
One more time. Tiny Diamond is my name. Come straight from my daddy's name. My whole body's made of glitter, and I'll throw it in your face.
2 out of 10.
Why are you here?
To offer you closure.
And how would you do that?
Violently.
Blake Lively is a star, and I do believe that there will come a point in time where she will be one of the biggest Hollywood stars going. People have been saying that since they saw her in Gossip Girl. I've been saying that since I watched her in The Shallows. And like I said, one day she will carry a franchise on her own. But today is not that day. Trying to do the best impression it can of Jason Bourne, the rhythm section follows Stephanie Patrick, whose parents and entire family are killed in a plane crash. Her life kind of spirals out of control, but then she decides that she's going to seek revenge and hunt down the people that were responsible for this attack. Unfortunately, this film is just one giant bore. Pacing is so horrendously off in this film. Lively is committed, she gives it her all, and you can tell that she does what she can with the material that she's been given, but this entire movie just flatlines near enough from the start until the very end. The editing is largely unfocused and feels like the entire movie is just thrown together without any form of coherence. Even paying full attention, this central mystery and general intrigue is largely unfocused and never ever that interesting. I'm going to give the rhythm section a 2.5 out of 10.
You're hoping if you spin the chamber enough times, you're gonna catch a bullet.
Well, this was a nice little surprise. Written by one half of the directors from the Avengers Endgame, produced by both of the directors of that movie, and starring the God of Thunder himself, Extraction is pretty much a no-nonsense, easy to follow, very straightforward, get from point A to point B, badass, pretty intense action thriller. It's by no means going to win any points for originality, but then it's not really trying to. Instead, it's just going to try and entertain you with some really well shot, well choreographed action sequences. Sometimes, if simple can be executed to a great degree, does it really matter? The action and the stunt work in this film is phenomenal. The action in this film is like a blend of John Wick and The Raid, and they had a baby and Chris Hemsworth was the result in Extraction. There's a fantastic car chase that evolves into a foot chase and that ends in a knife fight, and it's all composed to look as if it's one shot. It isn't one shot. It's one of those clever camera trickery ones where they're able to sort of blur the cuts and edit it so it feels like it's one continuous shot. And again, that is so wonderful to watch. And for a first-time director, Sam Hargrave, he really impresses here. So I'm going to give Extraction a 7.5 out of 10.
The Yukon is a dangerous place. You never know what's coming. I came up here because I didn't want to be around anyone. And then I met Buck.
Isn't it funny how Harrison Ford seemed to care a lot more about this project than he did reprising his roles of Indiana Jones and Han Solo? The Call of the Wild is an unfamiliar text with myself, but I know that it is based on an older novel that has had numerous adaptations in the past. It's an adventure centering on man's best friend, in this case a dog named Buck, who is taken from his home and then has to lead a life surviving in the wild. So in this adaptation, with director Chris Sanders at the helm, what we get is a very hokey, often cheesy, but mostly sweet and endearing film. Now, this is actually some of the best work I've seen from Harrison Ford in a while. The dude shows up for this movie, and the effects on the whole are first class, but my issues with the film, whilst nothing hugely substantial, I like the movie, my issues are kind of a little bit irritating in regards to the presentation of the film. For example, Chris Sanders, this is his directorial live-action feature debut, and in the past he's worked on the How to Train Your Dragon series, and I couldn't help but think whilst watching it that the way he's structured the shots, the way it's paced, it does feel like he's treating it more like an animation. And also the effects, whilst very impressive, I do have to ask the question why. If you aren't aware, Buck is completely motion capture in this film. And it's impressive, and Terry Notary, who does the motion capture for Buck, is fantastic as always. But there are companies out there that are amazing with animal actors, and so I have to ask the question of why use the technology when the real thing is almost just as feasible? I get that it's a brilliant technology to show off, but this film just didn't feel like the right way to utilise it. That being said though, it's a really, really good film, and I highly recommend that you watch it, so I'm going to give The Call of the Wild a 7 out of 10.
Are you CIA?
How'd you get in here?
Oh, because she has a camera, she might be streaming.
If Kim finds out we got made by a 9-year-old, my career's over.
What's the option?
Kill her. Make it look like an accident. Yeah, maybe the stairs.
What?
Wow, still recording.
If I were to describe My Spy in one word, forgettable. There isn't anything inherently wrong with the film. It's a pretty by-the-numbers hard-ass who has to reveal his softer side because there's a kid involved and he becomes a father figure to the kid. We've seen it from Arnie in Kindergarten Cop. We've seen it from Vin Diesel in The Pacifier. Even Jackie Chan has jumped on the trend. But now it's Dave Bautista's turn. And he's alright. He and Chloe Coleman, who plays the little girl in the film, they have a good enough chemistry to keep the movie ticking along that it doesn't feel like it's dragging at any point. But in terms of a comedy, the laughs are more miss than hit. Again, this is a film that won't exactly waste your time, but given the fact that we're all stuck indoors and there are thousands and thousands of films to choose from on streaming services, I don't think My Spy should be at the top of your list.
I'm going to give My Spy a 5 out of 10.
And now we get to the final two films. Two films that... ooh. It might get heated.
What did you guys do?
Oh my God!
Is this chocolate sprinkles your pubes? This is so beautiful.
You talking about this frosted replica of your vagina?
I got completely waxed though. I want a clean workspace for the doctor.
That is so considerate. I made them find it.
Don't you just love it when a comedy just isn't funny? One of the first jokes in Like a Boss is about sucking President Obama's At that point, the bar has been set very, very high. This is the story of two lifelong friends who run a cosmetics company. They end up being in a bit of financial trouble, so Salma Hayek's big cosmetic conglomerate steps in to try and save them, but there are some ulterior motives at work. Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish are the leads here. Byrne is a funny actress. Haddish is a funny actress. So why are they not funny here? I think that part of the problem here is that their chemistry, it just isn't there. You don't buy them as friends. You don't really care what they go through, and like I said, they're not really funny, so the entire experience just ends up being kind of awkward. Also, the film is incredibly sexual. Like, far more sexual than I had ever thought it would be. Because the comedy doesn't necessarily rely on finding the humour in certain situations, and instead, just by saying something crass about boobs or vaginas or penises, then we'll definitely get the laughs. Billy Porter gets the one laugh in this film. And most upsettingly of all, that scene is in the trailer. This was one of the worst films I've seen all year. Like a Boss gets a 1.5 out of 10. Somehow, there was a film worse than that.
Good evening. I'm Mr. Rurik. Let me officially welcome you to Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island! I'm curious how this all works.
What if your fantasy involves a person from your life? Holograms, like Tupac.
What if it's somebody who died?
Tupac.
Fantasy Island has to be one of the most dreadful screenplays I have ever seen from a film. It is f***ing tragic. Nothing makes sense from the character motivations to literally anything else in this movie. It plays out like one giant ridiculous cartoon where the directors and writers are clearly messing with us. This movie is a joke. It has to be. The entire premise is based around this mysterious island that these people are invited to live out their fantasies, but the fantasies aren't quite what they thought it would be, and it's trying to teach them some moral lesson, and then halfway through the film that moral lesson is completely abandoned, so it can just become some generic horror slasher, and the movie just turns into mush and crap and shit. And I'm not joking here. I wish I was joking. Later in the film, there features a Russian mafia gang, zombies, robots, and zombie robots. Oh, and Michael Pena looking completely dead behind the ice. Almost every line of dialogue is a cliche, horrendously written, or a twist for the sake of being a twist that adds nothing to the film. In fact, the only thing it adds is more confusion. It's crap. Utter crap. But then again, what can we expect from the creative team behind Truth or Dare, a film that thinks this face is scary? Fantasy Island gets a 1 out of 10. Whew, that does it. That is the end of both parts to my Speedy reviews. Thank you very much for watching. As far as movie reviews go, they will be as and when there are new releases out. Obviously, with cinemas shut at the moment, I'm going to be looking to streaming services and on-demand platforms if there's any new releases, and I'll try and get a movie review out to you. But for the time being, next week I will be releasing the very first episode of a new series on this channel called For the First Time in Forever, a series where I take a film that I have yet to see, a very well-known, almost embarrassing omission on my watch list, and I just give you my initial impressions on it. The first episode is going to be focused on Fight Club. I know, I'm sorry I haven't seen that sooner. But that is the plan for the time being. Many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please make sure that you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All the links to my social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my letterboxd are all in the description below. And if you haven't liked the video, what are you still doing here?